Welcome to The Shift, the podcast that empowers you to make a change in your life and chase your dreams with passion and purpose. If you are tired of feeling stuck in a life that doesn't fulfill you, if you have big dreams and ambitions but struggle to turn them into reality, if you want to break free from self-doubt and limited beliefs, join us every week to listen to inspiring stories from regular people just like you, actionable insights, and the motivation you need to make the shift towards your own dreams. And please don't forget to share, subscribe, and leave us a review to help spread the message and inspire others.
Hey. Welcome, shifters, to another episode. Today, I'm glad to present to you Dave Weinstock. He's a good friend of mine. We are in the same mastermind group, and he does quite a few interesting things that you guys are going to hear about maybe later on in our show. But he also has a very interesting journey from 9 to 5 to where he's at right now. So I think today's episode will be very interesting to all of you to know how Dave took his first step towards his dream life. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here. Actually, I saw the show launching and I saw a number of the great guests you had. I'm like, I need to be on here. I want to talk to you about this. So I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you to be here as well. It's been a long time coming. I know we talked about it, and you're finally here.
It's certainly taking a while, but it's good. It's good. More me than you.
Yeah. Well, so why don't you tell us about a little bit about yourself? What did you do in the past? Take us back a little bit to where you were when you were doing 9 to 5.
Yeah. So I started my life a bit of a computer geek. I used to be installing networks and fixing computers, and that kind of led me to my first job in consulting. So right out of college, I became a consultant, and I lived on planes, trains, and automobiles. I worked in small companies, big companies, multinational corporations, working 60, sometimes 80 hours a week, sometimes through weekends, implementing computer systems, doing management consulting, business plans. And I lived that way for, probably too long, for a good 10, 15 years of the journey.
Oh, wow. 10, 15 years. What company did you work for?
So different companies, all startups. And one of the hallmarks of a startup is they hire young, smart people. I'm not anymore, but I was at the time. Young or smart. You make your choice on which one it was, or both, who are just willing to throw themselves at good problems and work really hard. So I actually cycled through 4 different companies, searching for that pot of gold of when does it get easier? When did I move up the food chain? When did I get the life that I was looking to lead? Here's a little spoiler. I didn't actually find the life I wanted to lead doing those that job and those things. I certainly enjoyed the journey. I learned a lot of things. I was with wonderful, exceptionally smart and motivated people. And we all worked really hard and enjoyed the journey. But it didn't really create flexibility in my life or the type of lifestyle I was really looking for.
Interesting. You were working as a consultant, you were traveling a lot, and you've been doing it for, you said, 10 to 15 years. And then you came to a point probably of saying, okay, where do I go from there? Take us back to that point. What did it look like for you?
Well, so I took 2 steps, one a small step and one a big step. I left the consulting world at a certain point. I got married, and I was fortunate that the consulting company that I was a part of had gotten bought by a private equity firm. So I had a little more lifestyle, and we were kind of in a good place for a little while. But then the sands started shifting. They wanted more growth out of the company. They wanted us to do more and travel. And I said, I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I went and got myself my version of a corporate job. So I joined a company. I went from companies that were 300, 150 people, 50 people, to a company of over 1,000 people that was a public company. And honestly, I had the exact opposite experience of consulting, where I came into work at 9 o'clock. I left by 4:30 or 5. I had a nice long hour lunch and lived a good life. And I thought I'd stay a year or two. I stayed for 6 because I'd get bored and do a different job, but come into the day, work for the day, come home and kind of live that life for a little while. So that's what things looked like for me. And then when things started, so that was my first step from 60 to 8 hours a week, consulting, all that stuff, moving into a little cushier, a little more 9 to 5. But I just wasn't really fulfilled. I mean, I enjoyed, again, I love being around the people. I like the mission of the company, but I was just a cog, just doing a job, filling a role. And I hate to say it, when I left, someone else probably just stepped in and did what I was doing before. And they're probably exceptionally good at what they're doing as well. But corporate America just keeps churning. So that was my baby step. And then at the end of those 6 years, my boss was leaving. There was some stuff happening in the company, and I put myself out of a job. And they said, well, you can interview with other divisions and parts of the company. And it was just like, I just hit a wall. And I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to be one of 30 of these guys or one of 20 of these guys. And no harm to the people that are, but it's just not the life I wanted to lead. And I'd like to say I had the big plan to kind of jump off and start a business, but I got to be very honest. I just knew I was done. I was fortunate that what I'm doing today is real estate related. And in my 20s, I'd bought a couple of multifamilies, like 1 or 2 of them, that gave me a little bit of extra income. And my wife was working the job and she was getting paid a little bit more. So we sat down at the dinner table and my wife said, well, you get to choose what you want to do if you're going to do it. If not now, when? And so I just kind of told my company I was leaving and I didn't want another job. And I used my exit money and I bought a 2-family to gut and renovate and turn into condos.
Nice.
And I became a developer by accident overnight.
By accident. I love it. By accident. There is something you just mentioned that actually your wife told you, if not now, when? This is like a gold phrase. I think that everyone should take a note.
That phrase is so important to ask yourself, because I was working in these startups and consulting, thinking that I was building an empire and I was going to retire at 30 or become CEO at 40 or whatever it was going to be. But really, I was just on the hamster wheel. And that question to my wife as I was married, I had 2 young kids at this point, but she knew that I had other aspirations. She knew I had an entrepreneurial desire. And if not now, when? It doesn't get easier. The earlier you do it, all you're going to say to yourself is, I wish I did this sooner. I don't know anyone who's been on this journey who says, yeah, I wish I waited until I was 65 to do that. I wish I was 70 before I started traveling the world. I don't hear anyone who says that. If anything, and I'm sure you're hearing it from guests, nobody says, oh, gee, I really wish I took action later. Right?
Yeah. Totally.
So if not now, when?
Totally.
It's always good to start now.
Yeah. And yeah, by talking to a lot of different people, like pretty much all of them were saying like, I wish I could start earlier. Hey y'all, just a quick interruption. Would love to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Y2 Capital Group Debt Fund. With so much uncertainty, Y2 Capital Group Debt Fund was created to give accredited private investors a peace of mind. It helps investors to park their money short and long term, has 90-day liquidity, no management fees, keep investors' money safe and secure, provides stable high yield returns of 7 to 10% annually, depending on the investment size, and compounds investors' interest rate on a monthly basis. Just FYI, Y2 Capital Group doesn't accept everyone. The best way to see if this is the right match between you and Y2 Capital Group is to jump on a discovery call. The link to book a call is provided down below in our show notes. And back to our episode. I could start earlier, but
I mean, man, if I
There's a-
knew what the kids today now, if I knew I'd be in this industry when I was in my 20s, oh man, it'd be amazing. I mean, I am super happy and appreciative where I'm at now, but
Yeah.
just watching everyone else's journeys around me, it's really neat to see.
yeah, absolutely. And it's great. You took a leap of faith, right? And you stepped into a world of pretty much unknown to you. And you continued taking step by step. You continued taking those steps towards the life that you wanted. So I think that's where a lot of people are not being consistent at. And kudos to you. Like, I see your journey. I see how you progress. When I say mastermind room, we also talk a lot. We meet each other at conferences and we always chat, right? And I see how you progress. I see how your journey is going. So that's amazing, man. Congratulations.
No, I mean, I think not only the if not when, I mean, some of this is just the journey of a million miles is taken one step at a time. And you just got to start taking steps. And if you're intellectually curious and you want to get better at your craft and you enjoy what you're doing, it's amazing what you do on autopilot. So, I mean, I certainly worked hard to kind of step up and keep doing it. And I won't say that there aren't some stresses and I've lost more hair as I've gone through it. And I get to do this. I love doing it. It doesn't get old, what we're doing. Silly little things like picking my kids up every day from school is something I didn't get to do at the beginning. And that little stuff is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I think just taking action, being consistent. And I remember the pit in my stomach when I was still working either in consulting, getting ready for that change to corporate, or when I was at corporate. And I'm just like, what am I doing here? That pit in your stomach, and you're so scared to take that step. But it's okay to feel the fear. We all feel fear. That's a normal, natural thing that we are supposed to do as humans. It gets us ready to take on what's next for us. But we have to feel the fear and then do it anyway. If you don't take that jump, don't take that leap, don't put yourself out there, you stagnate. You just don't get to do anything new. So having that first conversation, again, I'm not telling anyone they should jump off a bridge or do what I did and just kind of jump straight out. But sometimes you got to burn the bridge behind you, or sometimes you just have to take it on faith and just do it.
Just do it. That's a Nike slogan.
What's the worst thing? It's just, but like, what's the worst thing that happened? Like,
let's follow the Nike slogan. Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, think about in corporate America. I mean, sure, there's some financial risk to what I did, but I'm still alive, healthy, and got the learning experience. I got paid education to do what I did and get better at my craft. But let's say it didn't work out for me. What's the worst thing that happens? I go back and get another job? Like, the real risks are mostly to ego than it is other things. And so again, being able to feel the fear and do it anyway and just take measured steps, doesn't really matter how far you get, to be honest, as long as it's enough and you're enjoying the journey.
Yeah. Take measured steps. another interesting line that I think you guys probably should take a note of. But let's go back. You mentioned a word fear. Let's go back to that specific moment in your life when you decided to step into the world of the unknown. What fear did you experience? Like, what was it like for you?
It takes on a couple things. Something actually kind of surprised me. Like, sure, we always say it's a financial risk. And so people are worried about, do I have enough money to take a vacation or pay my car? And obviously you need to have some reserves to keep a roof over your head and food on the table for some period of months, hopefully long enough to figure out what you're doing. But the fear was, how do I spend my days? How do I actually do the work that I think I'm going to do? And will I really enjoy it? Or is it just that feeling that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence? And so as much as I love learning something new, I was really fearful of keeping my days busy, feeling relevant. Did I make a mistake? Could I go back? Would people accept me if I wanted a job again? All silly things in hindsight, especially if you look at just where things have progressed and things have happened. But like, yeah, I mean, that racked my brain for a while, and even took me a year or two to get more comfortable on the path. And I think it was so I've been out of the corporate world for about 8 years now. And I think it was only the last like 4 did I say, yeah, unless the world ends, there's apocalypse and I have to put food on the table, I'm never going back. I'll find other entrepreneurial things to do, but I love the flexibility. I love setting out on the own path. And again, I just wish I did it sooner.
Yeah. I didn't meet a lot of people who worked 9 to 5 and then became entrepreneurs and came back. There are probably a few, but the majority of people didn't go back. Yeah.
I know one guy.
I think you can't go back. I think you can't go back to the life.
So I'll tell you a quick one. I know one guy, and he built up, he went as a real estate like me, and he built up a portfolio very quickly, quit his job, and then was miserable for 6 months because he didn't know what to do with his days. And he went and got another job, and he lasted another year. And after the first 2 to 3 months, all he could do is complain how time constrained he was and why did he do this, even though they offered him a boatload of money, only for him to exit barely a year later, and he hasn't worked for someone else since then. So people flirt with the idea of going back, wanting the structure, wanting the benefits, and there's certainly something about that from the financial safety net. But once you establish yourself, all that stuff is solvable. You just have to take you can't just stop at one step. But if you make consistent steps over a period of months or a year, it catches. You build upon what you're doing, and you're going to be okay. Like, we all learn to walk one step at a time. It's as long as you keep moving forward, it's all going to work out. I can't go back. I mean, I can't. Most people don't.
Yes. Keep moving forward. Amazing, man. And
just like Dory, keep on swimming.
Keep on swimming. So, yeah, so I wanted to ask you, so we just touched upon a topic of keep moving forward. What type of things made you taking those steps forward? Like, for example, let me rephrase the question. What role, if you will, did mentors or coaches play in your development as an entrepreneur? And how did that guidance and support impact your journey?
So I definitely have had mentors and folks that have kind of coached and supported me. Most of them been through friendships and people who are just higher up on the food chain or been in this entrepreneurship journey longer. But really just being around positive people who support the journey. There's so many people that are fearful of doing that step. And you hear it in their language. Oh, aren't you worried about buying a house the first time? Aren't you worried about being on your own? Ooh, if you're the entrepreneur and something happens to you, what will your family do? All of that is trying to pull out their fears because they're fearful of taking risks and they project that on you. Surrounding yourself with people that understand the upside and motivate, support you. Again, not being, I call it toxic positivity. Like you need to be practical, but the support of, you can do this. Have you thought about this yet? Or if you do this, this will actually help you as well. So people who lift you up, lift all boats. It's about getting that tribe. And that has been huge. I mean, when we joined that mastermind together, which is how we met initially, I don't think I've even been in that for 8 months now. So it hasn't been that long. But I instantly got exposed to a tribe of self-selected folks that wanted to improve their business, wanted to learn, wanted to help and lift each other up. And it's not that any one of those relationships caused my business to flourish, but mentally, it gave me such support and such an uplift. So I think, to cut to the chase, you need to find your tribe. You need to surround yourself with people that support your mission and vision of what you're trying to do. You don't have to have it all worked out. You just have to have people that believe in you and that you can talk to and freely and support without judgment.
It's amazing. And 100% agree. So guys, take notes. These are some gold nuggets that Dave is dropping right now. If you want to do something, find your tribe. Find the people that can support you and believe in you. So I think it's super important. Sometimes when you don't have motivation, or sometimes when you wake up and you think like, am I doing the right thing, right? Am I actually in the right path? Everything that I've been working on, it's been going so slow, right? I'm actually doing things right. And these are the moments where you can actually go reach out to your tribe, to the people that believe in you, have the conversations. I think it works wonders. I've been in those situations. I'm sure you probably have been as well. And these are the moments that can break or make you. So find your tribe. Find the people that believe in you. Find the people that already did what you want to do. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of people are very open and want to share things. So, and don't be afraid to ask. Just don't be afraid to ask. Dave, I wanted to ask you, I know a lot of people, to get to where they want to get, right? There is no end in this journey, right? But when you're taking big steps, you are sacrificing something in your life in order to take massive action to get to where you want to get. What sacrifices did you have to make to pursue your entrepreneurial dreams? And how did you actually balance all the aspects of your life?
I think the first thing is, people all think there's a financial hit, and there certainly was at first, for sure.
Yes.
But it's really, it's a hit to ego, because if you are, I mean, again, some people are more confident in those steps they take early. For me, although I had touches with groups of people doing more entrepreneurial things, like this was my first one on my own, and I needed to kind of lock arms and bring people with me once we got up and running. But it's the ego, it's that fear of failure was really, really hard. And I would even say to this day, I have a bit of imposter syndrome. You see my conversations and you've been a part of some of the discussions I've had where I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing here? And then people are like, Dave, you've been at this for so long, you've done subdivisions, you've done all this stuff, like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel okay with that, but now I want to do this bigger thing. And I think the trick here is it's all about building blocks. So you just got to build a couple of blocks in the foundation. Back to the tribe about this. Most entrepreneurs, and I think this is going to take some wind out of like the buzzwords around it. No one is inventing anything really novel and new. They might have created a good idea. They might have something that's a better widget, a better mousetrap. But people have started companies before. There are countless. Listen, UPS was not the first package delivery service. There are lots of package delivery services. UPS just executed much better than anyone else because their steps and what they did had a bigger catalyst to do it. But the journey is, this is not new and novel. And so like, I think you can just keep going at it. Like what we do in the real estate space, some days I feel like I'm inventing the wheel and it's nothing. And then I realize that like, oh, except for this other couple hundred people that are doing exactly what I'm doing and just either further ahead or got a different playbook than I did. And now it's collaborative and there's room for everybody. Like there could be a liquor store on every corner, a Dunkin' Donuts on every corner, and everybody does okay. Entrepreneurism, oh my goodness, is not a new concept.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. And still going back to sacrificing moments. What was the biggest sacrifice that you had to do in your life? Like, is it
ego,
would be
financial, time, friends? When you step away from where so many people put their sense of self, your work life, half the people are rooting for you and half are like, you just fall off the radar. I mean, I can't speak for you. I'm a very socially driven person, relationship driven. Yeah, I've kept tabs with some people in my working career, and I think they're all lovely people. I'd love to talk to all of them, but out of sight, out of mind, we don't talk the same language anymore. I'm busy picking my kids up at 2, 3 in the afternoon and taking them for ice cream, and they're working till 6 o'clock, complaining that they got to work late, that they've got no time for their spouse, that they're this. Pretty soon you realize that common bond of kind of being a negative Nancy and like talking about the work life and, what a grind today. It's hard to keep up with these people. It just creates a little separation. And I do lament that. Like I love the friends I made in my work life. I loved the camaraderie of the startups. And I am still friendly with all those people, but my life has progressed in a different way than theirs have. I work to help bring people to my side of thinking and give them a venue out.
Right.
That really was a loss for me, and it took me a couple of years to rebuild back to that point of tribe. People around me that I can hang out, talk about things. And again, I poured a lot of myself into work for a long time. That's all it was. Maybe people are more balanced than me.
Yeah. When you're at that entrepreneurial journey, right, you have to develop mental resilience. You have to know how to handle pressure. How did you develop your mental resilience? And how did you create the ability to handle pressure? Or you're still doing this, or you're still creating this. So what?
This is a harder one for me to give advice on, in that I just came out a certain way. I've always been very even. And so I like hard problems. I like working. I like figuring things out. I do get stressed, but for me, and this is probably something that you may not know about me. When I was a teenager, I was in a pretty bad car accident, and there was a question if I would walk again. And
Later.
from that perspective, every day is a good day. Every day I wake up is a good day. And so the things that would stress out other people, listen, I gave my heart and soul to every company I've been at. Whether they give it back or not, it's a different reason. I worked, lived, breathed everything and tried to do everything right. But at the end of the day, I knew that I did what I could do. And I have no problem at the end of saying, all right, the tank is empty. I'm tired. The eyes are blurry. I'm just going to go to bed. Here's where it is. And if it got done, great. And if it didn't, I did what I could do. And I didn't carry it over. I do have stress. And I did have stress then. And it probably manifested in weird ways. But today, the way I handle stress is, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I create a support system of people, confidants, and mentors and partners that we can talk about things together. And I can get different perspectives. I'm a huge fan of lists. So if I can't solve something in my head or there's too much going on, I just start writing lists of things and just try and compartmentalize what's important today that I can work on, what's tomorrow. And there's entire regimens, books, structures on thinking that allow you to kind of do that if you're not used to doing that normally. But again, starting as a consultant, everything's about creating structure and process from organized chaos in a lot of ways or other people's stuff.
Yes, sir. And I did not know that about you. So, but, oh, there you go.
That's my dog on lawnmower. So hey, if there's relaxed again, I get to do this at home.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I think it takes guts not only to share with me, but to other people who will listen to this show as well. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate the platform. I've gotten very used to, I am who I am. And early in there, you work where you kind of hide it. But where I'm at today in business, like, listen, this is what I do. I'm a real person. I'm not perfect. I do the best I can do. I'm trying to present myself the way I am. I don't need a persona. It is what it is. I'm trying to have fun in this world. I want to enjoy this.
Exactly. So can you share with us actually, you mentioned the book. You mentioned the book that you read. I would say recently, right? That helped you sort of manage your time. Can you share the book? What is the name?
Oh, so I don't know that I had a particular one, but I would say that books like The Miracle Morning or The 4-Hour Work Week, I don't take those verbatim, but I think those things where you can get early successes in your day and build upon them is mentally powerful. So having a morning routine, having a regimen where you feel you've accomplished certain things. So for example, I work at home. After my kids go to school, I go to the local coffee shop. My first 2 hours of the day is very regimented, and I go through my daily planning of the day. Then I go through my email triage, and then I don't really start meetings until about 10 o'clock. And that gives me, I do that every day, and it's a great structure and basis for what I'm doing. But yeah, I think those types of structures are really good. You just got to figure out what works for you.
Cool. Yeah. So I think, guys, take a note because I think the structure, when you're working for yourself, when you're an entrepreneur, I think the structure plays an important role, right? You have to know what you're doing today. You have to know what you're doing tomorrow, because otherwise it's going to be chaos. You're going to get distracted. You're going to work on things that don't really produce any revenue results. But when you're an entrepreneur, like, you probably have to work on a lot of things that produce revenue, because revenue is the most important probably part of the business. So yeah, I mean, take a note, guys. Take a note of the books that Dave just mentioned. It was a 4-hour week workday, right? 4-hour, was it 4-hour week workday?
4-hour work week. 4-hour work week.
4-hour work week. I just hear about this book, or The Miracle Morning. So take a note of those two books. I did not read them. I'm gonna put them on my list to read, but I did hear about them. Cool. Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you, did you have any defining moments or breakthroughs during the early entrepreneurship that significantly shaped the trajectory of your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. I mean, my very first project when I became a developer, things didn't go as planned. And I ran into some problems with the contractors, mistakes, things like that. The fact that I was able to solve those and move forward was hugely validating. And so I think what that speaks to is you need small wins or early successes so that you're on the right path. Because if you get a lot of negative feedback and get negative people around you and you're not moving and getting small wins, it becomes very thankless. And can be really strong of will to get through that. So if I didn't get those early wins, I can't tell you where I'd be today. But having those wins, I knew I could build on anything and continue to do so. And so most things are solvable now. They're not as daunting as they would have been in the past.
So it seems like it comes down to being very resourceful.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be a problem solver. You are a chief cook and bottle washer when you're starting this journey. So you have to wear all these different hats. You have to be able to juggle it. You have to know how to organize what's important of your day. To what you said before, it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. Listen, it might be fun to do an exploration on a technology that you want to implement for your business. But at a certain point, should you be spending the whole day researching how to put prompts into ChatGPT, or should you be making a couple of phone calls that might actually generate a sale, a revenue, or build a product or service? So that is hard to do. I mean, I think we all fight with shiny object syndrome of what's exciting at the time. And you're doing this for a reason. You have a particular why and focus. So that you got to pull yourself back to that. So I agree.
Yeah. So I think it's very important for people also to realize that there are going to be failures, right? There are going to be setbacks. Can you share with us what were the most valuable lessons you learned from your early setbacks and failures, and how did you use those experiences to grow and improve?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's about being creative. I mean, I'll share my beginning story of becoming a developer. So I had just purchased a 2-family from another investor, so a 2-unit building, supposed to be a 3, legal 3. Mm-hmm. And I got the name of a contractor through a friend of a friend who was supposedly very inexpensive, very quick, and he could get it done. Well, I gave him a real hefty deposit, and I waited, and I waited, and I called him again, and I waited. And then he says, oh, it's a much bigger job. I need a couple more bucks before I can get started. So I gave him another check. If red flags aren't going up for you yet, they didn't go up for me, but they should have. And so eventually I called him and I said, listen, if I don't see you on the job site the next week or two, I'm going to call my lawyer. And so big dumpster shows up and they gut the house. And a couple days into this, and there's not cleaned up. I mean, you can't walk in the building. There's stuff all over the floors, piled 2 feet high. And I get a call from the city for a stop work notice for doing work without a permit, and I can't reach the guy. So short story long, I had to do a lawsuit. I had to get a new builder. The house was structurally unsound. We had to rebuild it.
Well,
We built a few townhouses instead of 2 condos. It was tough. And at any step along the way, if we couldn't solve the next 1 or 2 problems, I probably would have thrown my hands up and said, all right, this wasn't for me, and I give up. So it's hard at first when you're doing something new. You don't know what you don't know. You try and get trusted people to help you. I just was too scared to reach out for more help early in terms of like finding that tribe, finding people, and I tried to do it by myself. Thankfully, I made it through, but it wasn't pretty. That was a hard start to the business. That said, very few things have troubled me since then. I learned a lot. I threw myself into it. I learned how to read the zoning. I learned the building code. I started speaking the language of builders, developers, and investors. And that set me on the path. But that was, starting's hard. I won't lie.
yeah. Thanks for sharing. You mentioned that you were scared to ask for help. What made you scared?
Ego. I mean, again, there's so much, when people hear you're going out on your own, those that are proud of you, friends, family, they do want to see you succeed. Even if they're scared for you, they do want to see you succeed. And when things aren't going as rosy and as awesome as you were excited they'd be, it's not always easy to tell people, I don't want people to tell me I made a mistake. Oh, you should have never gone on your own. It serves you right. All those voices in your head. And the truth is, if you find people in your industry and what you're trying to do, they're never going to say that. They're like, oh, I've run into that here. Here's what I'd suggest. They're very helpful. But I didn't know at the time, and I was scared. And again, I've come light years. I grow by partnerships and by asking people and learning. And it's tremendous now. But at the time, I thought I had to know all the answers. I thought I had to put on the brave face. I thought I had to kind of fake it till you make it. And it's funny. I feel very, very good now. My answer is, you know what? That's something I haven't delved into. It's something I don't know, but I know people I can ask. Let me do some research and get back to you on it. Versus they're like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Nice. I can probably relate because the way we grew up, I think it was more like a little bit embarrassing in the sense of asking for help and kind of feel embarrassed by not knowing the answer and people and kind of think that people would be laughing at you, right? You're not knowing the answer.
Such a corporate mentality where they just
I know, right?
hoist this on you like, oh, you're in this role, you're gonna be an expert at that. It's so powerful to mature in your career and know that. Good question. I don't know. Let me find out for you.
Yeah. Awesome, Matt. I am glad that you stepped over it and you were able to ask for help, because I think that's a big step. I think that's a big step towards I would say better you, right? Better you, and it means you're open to learn things. It means you have less ego. It means you want to do everything possible to reach your goals. So, and
I think something nice to put in here is this idea. Again, I don't know if this is contrary to what people say, but the idea that you make it by yourself in the United States as an entrepreneur is the farthest thing from the truth. And as soon as you accept that, you go farther together, and that there's an entire ecosystem of supporting players and people you can enlist that makes true success. All of a sudden, there's this room to not know everything, because no one person will ever know everything.
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
So to piggyback on that, how did you establish a support system or find the community of like-minded people or individuals?
I will share. The internet has been an amazing tool for me. For some reason, joining groups like this mastermind and reaching out and learning and just being like intellectually curious to learn about other people doing this and understanding how they do it. They weren't threatened by me asking about their business, even from the same business. And I found a lot of really positive people that wanted to share information and help, just because people, I think, at their nature do want to help. And that was, for me, a huge, huge way to start building that support system. And it's fun. It's taken me a while to build that support system back at home. But I'd say through the internet and through these groups, I found much more real people that are very quick and easy to speak to, because in some ways they don't know your history and your past. So they just treat you for where you are, where your feet are today and what you aspire to be. So you don't have that baggage of like, hey, you used to be a consultant. Why are you in this field? Well, that was a decade ago. Like that's not even relevant anymore. But a lot of people know your history and it's hard to kind of decouple from it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure there are like lots of things where you can change that, right? Like, for example, creating new content, publishing that content, even on social media channels where your friends, like, or past friends, where best friends are, so they can see what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah, and it does come back around, because I have so many people now that have had decades behind me that they're still learning about my journey, and they're like coming in later, not the startup years, but now I'm actually going and growing and scaling, and it's been really, really fun. I mean, I've reconnected with folks from my very first boss, which was awesome. My very, very first boss 20 plus years ago.
Wow.
Reached out. I see what you're doing. I've been investing in real estate for a little while. I'd love to meet you. I haven't seen you in so long. And you catch up on decades of time, and it's just wild. It's great.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, I've been posting also a lot of things, and people who I thought would never reach out, reached out to me asking for advice. And people are watching what you're doing, even though they don't comment or reply. But I think when you post, people notice what you're posting. So you think it could go, it does go anywhere because you see no comments, no replies, right? But people are watching. People are watching what you're doing. All right. So reflection on your early experience, right? What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are just starting out?
Take the first step. It never gets easier. The longer you wait, it gets harder, and you won't regret taking action sooner.
Excellent. Guys, write this down. And Dave, so I think it's been fantastic. I have the last round of questions that I want to ask you. And this round is called the moment of truth. So what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to reply very fast without overthinking it.
Right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What do you think your strength is?
Problem solving and relationships.
What do you think your weakness is?
Grinding through the daily tasks.
What is your biggest fear?
Not moving fast enough and far enough.
Name one educational resource that made an impact in building your business.
My mastermind.
Name a person that made the biggest impact in your life.
My dad.
What was one question you always wanted to be asked but never did?
Oof. I don't know. Why do I do what I do? I don't do that.
Okay, fair enough. And last one. If in 100 years the science fails to save us, and all that is left a book about your life, what would the title and blurb tell us about Dave Weinstock?
The title I can't tell you, but what I'd like people to know is that I created my own journey, I provided for my family, and hopefully I impacted many other people to live a more flexible life, enjoying the precious time we have. I know it sounds trite, but I truly believe that our time is limited and we really need to start exploring the opportunities in front of us to live the life we want to live.
Absolutely, 100%. Like people say, we live only once, right? So if not now, when?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, just to close this out, tell us really quickly what you're working on right now and how people can contact you and help you.
Yep. So started with development. I've moved into basically private equity. We do things through a fund. We do syndications, value add, multifamily, and new residential real estate. That's what I'm doing today. I'm working on a couple of apartment complexes right now and a subdivision, looking at more. And if people want to reach me, I can be reached at dwcapitalllc.com or investwithdw.com has all of my contact information and people can learn more about me there. Love talking to people, love helping people find the path towards financial freedom. And this has been a pleasure. I love what you're doing, Eugene. Just a quick plug for you as we wrap up. I love what you're doing. I think by interviewing people and talking about these journeys, I hope that for anyone watching, it gets a little less scary and they can take that first jump. Because again, it just takes a couple of steps to get some momentum behind you and find your tribe and really enjoy and lead the life that you meant to lead.
That was amazing. I appreciate you. Thank you. Hopefully we can reach as many people as we can with these messages and impact those people's lives in a better way. But it's been amazing, Dave. Guys, reach out to Dave. Super nice guy, super helpful guy. If any questions, he'll probably talk to you for hours to explain things and to steer you in the right direction. So, Dave, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Eugene. It's been a pleasure. If people want education on real estate investments, sign up for my newsletter on the website as well. And thank you again. Really appreciate the time.
Awesome. All right. Cheers. And I'll see you in our mastermind group and offline as well.
Sounds good. Thank you much.
We hope that today's episode has inspired you to take action towards building the life you've always wanted. Don't forget to leave us a review, share, and subscribe to our podcast for more empowering stories, actionable insights, and motivation to help you make the shift towards your own dreams. Thanks again for listening to The Shift.